Hi, everyone, and welcome to our new episode of the Futural podcast. I am Matilda, and today I will present the designer and architect Noah Haim, born in Jerusalem, Israel, lives and works in Rotterdam, the Netherlands, running her own studio, Collective Paper Aesthetics, but also works in Albania with some very interesting projects we will discover during our podcast. Welcome, Noah. We are very, very happy to have you today with us.
Thank you, Matilda. It's good e-meeting with you, and thank you for the beautiful opportunity.
And our audience is eager, is very curious to learn something more about you. How did Noah become the talented and prize awarded designer and architect? Because we have learned a lot about you, but want to hear now from you.
You know, it's not always clear to me how did I. Some days I also don't believe if it's about me. So I think that's psychologically that's a subject. Um,
Can
so
I help you?
yes.
You are running your own studio. Why
Mhm.
is this name, Collective Paper Aesthetics?
Okay, that's an easy one. The name is reflecting the perception that the beauty of the aesthetics or the aesthetics are created by the many people or the collective who are building the structure together. We made this name for a presentation in Milan in 2009, and I after 1 week during Salona, when I saw so many people saying it again and again and again, I understood that it's probably a good name for a studio. So initially it was the name of an exhibition. I was not thinking to use it for the studio.
And it's a nice one, but you brought your studio also here in Albania. Can you share with us something more about your experience in Albania, the projects you have done here?
So I had a pleasure to be twice. I had two projects in Albania. Uh, it started actually I've never heard about Albania until coming to the Berlache. But when I was busy on my second year with graduating, the year below me was working with Elias Angelis and Pier Vittorio Aureli on a project in Tirana with, I think, then the mayor Edi Rama. And
Mhm.
they were going back and forth from Rotterdam to Tirana, and they always came back with fascinating stories. So in 2015, when I was contacted by the Netherlands embassy, I was happy to have the opportunity to go to Tirana. And the embassy, the team in the embassy, they had this beautiful idea for using the studio materials, working with children from RCIS in the National Gallery, and using it as a platform to communicate the right of every child for education. It was one of the most beautiful projects of the studio to see how one can put together empathy and empowerment, to see the teens from RCIS working at first with the younger children and later on guiding the mayor of Tirana, the ambassador of the Netherlands, and more VIPs in how to put the structures together during White Night. Um, During this activity, I've met with Nedi Petri and Miriam Bilaci, I'm not sure I pronounce his name correct, from Cultural
Mhm.
Heritage Without Borders. And we kept in contact after my return to the Netherlands and agreed to keep an open eye on collaboration opportunities. And in 2019, we found one and we applied together to Designscapes. It was an European open call from Horizon 2020, looking for innovative ideas for public space. And after spending many summer hours in front of the computer, I think the deadline was 31st of July or something like this. So we were super happy to hear that we received the grant. And shall I continue, or do you want to?
Yes, yes, please. I'm eager to know a lot about this project. I know I've done my homeworks, but
Mhm.
I'm curious also for our audience to know more about this beautiful project, the Design and Heritage Empower Communities project. I'm correct?
Yes, yes, exactly.
Okay.
So
What
during
it
the
is?
Hmm?
Yes. What
No,
is this about?
the project is a smart and small answer to larger urban and social challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for the past 30 years, as we know, Tirana went through big changes in the urban fabrics, if they are physical changes or if they are changes in social structures and more people immigrating to the city and traditional city communities are turning apart or disappearing. And the ideal, this was one side of it. The second side was the cultural heritage, the architectural heritage, that some buildings, like the National Theatre, for example, which were architectural monuments, are demolished. So we selected four architectural monuments which can be interpreted to a cardboard pop-up structure, because some buildings we wanted to select, but it wasn't possible to make Lego out of them. And we also, Nedi and his team, they were identifying two different public spaces, one in the context of Don Bosco neighborhood, which is a new development,
Mm-hmm.
and the second one in Mosaico, the historic center. We design, and at the beginning we exchanged like PDFs and photos from the prototypes, and then we sent, that was the beginning of COVID, we sent a big box of prototypes from the Netherlands to the office of CHWB. And in September 2020, we finally had the opportunity to test the idea in one weekend, Friday until Sunday evening.
And
On Friday, we worked with amazing volunteers, which the municipality arranged for us. It was an enthusiastic group of really amazing volunteers, because I think that these kind of projects, they sometimes they can be success or they can fall down because of volunteers. And then on Saturday we were in Don Bosco, and afterwards we went to see the Mosaico, and we had the first beer in the small cafe, bar, restaurants there. And on Sunday, we spent the whole day with Mosaico, in the Mosaico, with the community around. And at the end, we had the Netherlands Embassy was organizing for us a press conference to summarize the event. And we were honored to host the Albanian Minister of Culture, Miss Elva Margariti,
yes.
with her children together.
Noah, the way you are describing this experience looks like it was an enriching one. It was because of the great volunteers. It was about bringing together communities, institutions, as you mentioned, or the passion that you found there.
All together, I think. Uh, I think like you bring your passion and cultural heritage without borders. Nedi, he brought his own passion, and then then the passion of the volunteers, of the ministries. It's all like it's this point where all these things are meeting.
So at the end, we can say that this kind of projects increase happiness in the cities.
I'm the designer, so I think for me it's hard to look at it from inside.
Mm-hmm.
It's way easier to describe it from outside. Um, I think they are increasing awareness and they raise importance for people, for actions. You can say happiness. I'm happy to hear that.
Can you explain a little bit for us the concept of pop-up participatory spaces or these open design installations you are talking about?
Um, the concept of it has to do with placemaking. So the
Mm-hmm.
concept of the pop-up participatory places and the concepts behind placemaking, they are originated in New York in the 60s when writers like Jane Jacobs and William White, they offered a different perspective regarding urban renewal in relation to community, social fabric, and economical shifts. For example, if we look back in Albania, if we move from New York to Tirana, so when one is demolishing the National Theatre building, is not only demolishing the physical building, because the city is not only about cars and shopping malls and buildings. The city is also the director of the theater, taking a coffee outside of the building, exchanging few words with the owner of the bar and the customers, and going back to the office. And when we demolish a building, the small interactions are also demolished. And what my
Mm-hmm.
now participatory processes, that's a different perspective, or it's not a different, but it's a different term in the same
Mm-hmm.
family, provides the community ownership and support the, so it, if this kind of actions are taking the ownership or the power from the community by making things together with the community, you bring them back the power and you give them back the narrative to be their own storytelling and not the city or the developers or the big powers.
But
Uh,
change is here the only constant factor in our cities today.
I
How
agree.
we can cope with the change, considering that we have resistance towards the change?
Change is good. Change is not always bad. That's I have to say. So it's not black and white. Change is
Mm-hmm.
good, and but when we make the changes, we need to also be aware of the the opportunities, because for um, to make the change more positive, we need to work together and to work together towards to maintain well-being urban fabrics, the well-beings of the people who are living in the neighborhood, in the city where the changes are happening. And when we have like small solutions like this one to create pop-up public spaces, pop-up playgrounds, that's one solution, small one for these big questions. And when the people are making it themselves, it's it's like sometimes you make something, it's empowering you, and then you realize it's also empowering the others. So when I see parents doing it with children together, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's creating a sense of belonging and yeah, of empowerment. Did I answer
Noah,
your
what,
question?
Noah, what is your favorite spot in Albania or in Tirana?
I really love the coffee. You have an excellent coffee over there. And favorite spot, I don't know if I know the city good enough to say anything about a favorite spot, but there was a local bar restaurant in front of the Mosaico that we spent
Mhm.
many hours together over there, and it was a very nice place. So I don't know the place. We should ask Nedi for the name. Um, but I think it's if I had to make the time out of Tirana or the wallpaper, so I would advise people to go there.
Maybe
The
we can
wallpaper
invite you.
recommendation.
Maybe we can invite you, and who knows, any future projects in the air here in Albania?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Any future projects here in Albania to
No,
develop to
not at the moment. Not at the moment.
if I ask you to describe in one sentence your experience with the Design and Heritage in Power Communities project, are you able to describe it in one sentence or at least share your experience, what you brought back in the Netherlands from this experience?
Um, I think it's about the way that you can offer a smart and small answer to larger urban and social challenges. Working with local communities, you can create fantastic new places and experiences and inspiring the wider. You can have a, yeah, it's like if you put a stone in the water, you have like the closed circle, then the circles of the effect are getting bigger.
No, we can. One last question for you. Is Tirana an urban, vibrant place, as you have heard from your colleagues? And when you came back and visited Tirana and talked with people, and maybe you are still following news, can you confirm if Tirana is an urban, vibrant place to live?
Yes. The first time I was a bit, we worked in the gallery and I stayed in a hotel, not sure exactly where. And I've seen the city. We've been in the television and we went to have dinner one day in the block. Is that how you call it? The block?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I was more, how can you say? I was a bit more disconnected. But the second time I stayed in the block and then I realized how vibrant and act full of life. And it was during COVID, so over here everything was closed or slowly opening and people were still very careful and taking care of the distance, and Tirana felt like a big party. It was beautiful to see that people are so full of life.
To have you in Futural Podcast. We are welcoming you again in Tirana with your beautiful art and architecture designs. And to our listeners, stay tuned for other interesting characters in our next podcast.
Thank you, Matilda. It was a pleasure to be your guest.
Bye. Thank you, Noah.
Bye.